Good afternoon, everyone. I am Advocate Nilesh Patil. Welcome you all to the webinar of Dhake Palkar sir on behalf of Vasantrao Patil Lawyers Training Center, supported by the Sangli Bar Association. This training center was established in the year 2019 in the honor and memory of late Sri Vasantrao Patil, who was a renowned criminal lawyer and ex-president of Sangli Bar Association. The center was established with the purpose of upgrading the legal knowledge and overall development of the budding lawyers. With the spirit of achieving this end, the center till date has arranged number of lectures of renowned personalities from various faculties. And today it's our great honor to present you to webinar of Advocate Prasad Dhakefalkar sir. Thank you sir for providing us this opportunity today. I now hand over to Advocate Kedar Patil to take over. Thank you.
Prasad Dhakefalkar, Senior Advocate, Bombay High Court. It's a formidable name in legal practice, both on original and appellate side. He does not need any introduction. He is so well known. But out of fondness, I cannot resist to say few words about him, out of my own observation. Sir has grip over the files, well read on law, and though his board is so heavy, it's calm like a still water and communicates with the bench at ease. I'm a great fan of Sir's court skills and style of presentation. Sir is also popular for his humorous nature. Sir, now I request you to address the webinar. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Kedar. Thank you very much. First of all, I must thank the Sangli Bar Association and Vasantrao Training Center to give me this opportunity to be before you. I must thank Savita Shetbale, the president of the Sangli Bar Association, and Madhukar Hazare, who is the secretary of Sangli Bar Association. I must congratulate the members of Sangli Bar for electing a lady member as the president of the bar. Association of Western India, and to tell you frankly, till today the association is 250-year-old. We have never elected a lady member as president of the bar. Congratulations to Sangli Bar Association for this feat. It shows how progressive you are, and the members of Sangli Bar are actually ahead of us in Mumbai. Then I must also congratulate the people who are managing the Vasantrao Patil Training Center. It is a unique idea. It is one of its different kind of idea to have a continuous legal training to the junior lawyers. That's a very good idea. The vision is to train the young lawyers. That is a wonderful thing. Then what I have really liked about it is that bridging the gap between the juniors and the lawyers of the trial court and the senior advocate of the Supreme Court and the High Court. Now, I don't consider, of course, what they mean is this, that bridging the gap means that they must, they think that the junior lawyers or the lawyers from Sangli are, they have to come up to the level of the High Court and Supreme Court. I don't think that there is any such level. Actually, I feel, and I sincerely feel, I'm not saying it because I'm speaking in front of the District Bar Association, but I feel that a trial court lawyer's job is far more difficult than a lawyer's job in the High Court, at least on the appellate side, where most of the time we get the entire ready material in the form of pleadings and in the form of decided orders or judgment, and ultimately we have to comment on it and find out whether it is in accordance with law or not. But the trial court's lawyer's job is much more difficult. But I take it otherwise. I say that bridging the gap between the lawyers of the district court and the lawyers of the Supreme Court and High Court means that we must share each other's experiences. We must share each other's struggles. That is the subject today. And we must share each other's knowledge. I must give you an example which comes to me. I remember my father had practiced for a few years as a trial court lawyer, and he was assisting in a matter which was between at Shirampur, a matter between two big time agriculturists who were really big time agriculturists. They were having a fight, and both of them had brought lawyers from Bombay to argue and to conduct the trial. And just Y.V. Chandrachud was practicing at that point of time, and he had come there. And I must tell you, my father told me that when Y.V. Chandrachud was cross-examining the witness, he found it a little difficult going because he was not used to cross-examine. And candidly, he told the local lawyers to cross-examine the witness further after the recess. So that is how the job of every lawyer in different court is different. And it was greatness of Justice Chandrachud, who was a lawyer at that point of time, Y.V. Chandrachud. I am talking about the Chief Justice of India, not present judge of the Supreme Court. So Y.V. Chandrachud had this kind of greatness that he allowed the local lawyer without any inefficiency to continue with the cross-examination. Ultimately, they succeeded in the matter. But that is how every lawyer's job is different. Lawyer's job at the trial court is different. Lawyer's job in the high court is different. And I don't think that there is any gap or a breach. But if at all, that a bridge is there, that is in respect of different kind of experiences which we have. And I think that we will share the experiences. I'm told, I mean, yesterday only I received a message. The message was a joke. As usual, various jokes are circulating on the WhatsApp and all that. It said there are 3 kinds of pandemics going on today. Their first pandemic is, of course, COVID-19. The second pandemic or epidemic is in respect of the government circulars, and the protocol circulars is government is every day issuing as to how to behave and who should behave in what manner in this COVID. And the third pandemic or the epidemic is in respect of webinars. There are webinars galore, and everybody is speaking on these webinars. But I must say one thing, that though it's a joke, but these webinars are helping everybody. This is helping lawyers like me to again brush up, or in today's subject, to reminisce, to think about what happened in the past and then talk to you. Or when we talk about other subject, again brush up our knowledge, again make a revision, read everything again, and again present it. It gives us a great pleasure. I think Kedar was also telling me that his father, great Jaisingh Rao Shinde, was also yesterday or day
Hello.
before yesterday when he went on the webinar and studied some matters for webinar and all that. He was very happy about it. So all these things are really helping us. These webinars are helping us. Now to begin with, I must tell you one thing, that I am like all of you. Though I practice in the High Court, my origination is from the Mofussil area. I must tell you that my father and the grandfather, they belong to a district called as Ahmednagar. All of us know Ahmednagar. My grandfather practiced in a place known as Rauri throughout his life. Rauri was a taluka place. So my grandfather was a lawyer at a taluka place. My father initially practiced for 2-3 years, but then immediately joined Maharashtra Judicial Services, and he became a civil judge junior division, and he was getting transferred all over. So all this happened my father before I was born, or rather when I was my father joined the services immediately after I was born, and then his postings were at various places in Maharashtra. So he used to get transferred after every 2-3 years, and I used to go along with him. And I started my education. The education was everywhere in Maharashtra. Education was in places like, small places like Dindori, Nashik, Sakri, Amravati, Amalner, Solapur. All my school education was of places like this. The language of education was Marathi. And you know how when we learn in Marathi, and most of the time, I think 1 year I was in English medium school, but most of the time I was in Marathi medium school. And you know how in Marathi when we study, and then you have to speak in English, what do? You first prepare a sentence in Marathi, then translate it in your mind, and then speak English. So that is how I started speaking English, first preparing this. So mostly education was in vernacular school, that is Marathi. College education also all over Maharashtra. First, I started at Garware College in Pune. There I was for 2 years. Then initially, actually, I started at a science faculty. I failed miserably. Then I changed the faculty. I went for arts faculty. In the arts faculty, I started BA in English literature. 2 years in Pune, 2 years in Nagpur. So ultimately, I graduated from Hislop College in Nagpur. Thereafter, again, my father got transferred. So law, I did 3 years of law, out of which 2 years I did it in Jalgaon Law College. 1 year I did in Dhule Law College. So you see, education all over Maharashtra or in our Marathi language, I had an occasion to बारागावचं पाणी प्यायची मला संधी मिळाली. So therefore, I was all over Maharashtra educating myself. And by the time I did my law, and I must tell you frankly, I went to law because I couldn't get admission anywhere else. So therefore, I did law. After I did my law, I had a problem where to go. My grandfather had stopped practice long before I became a lawyer. So therefore, there was no question, and there was no question of going and practicing at a place like Rauri, or for some time he used to practice at Ahmednagar also. So there was no question. Ultimately, like everybody else who has no place of his own, I went to Mumbai and started practicing in Mumbai. Mumbai also, how do you go? Mumbai, you don't have place. My father's meager salary couldn't afford to keep me even in hostel. So there was no question of me either buying a house in Mumbai. So what do you do when you want to practice in Mumbai? The royal route, as I call it, and I call it many times, the royal route was first to get admission in the LLM course of Mumbai University. Then apply for hostel admission. Why Mumbai University's LLM? Because that was very good LLM in those days at least, because the lectures were only in the evening. No lectures in the afternoon. And therefore you get the whole day free, so you can practice. So many predecessors of mine or the great lawyers of earlier years, like Arvind Sawant, Dudat, and many others, they always came to Mumbai and first they stayed in the hostels, and then thereafter they tried to find out their place. So I was in hostel of university hostel and the law college hostel. There was a law college hostel also. So that was the royal route. Then came the question that how do you find a senior? There, since I was from Ahmednagar, Mr. M.L. Dudat was also from Ahmednagar. And my family knew M.L. Dudat's family. So my father requested Dudat Sahib that it is possible for him to take me as his junior. So ultimately, he agreed. He said, yes, that I will take him, no issues, but you make arrangement of his residence. So I was given admission in the hostel. That was also from government quota. I was given admission because my father was a judge in Mofussil area, so he knew some government officer. So I got some from government quota. I got an admission in the hostel, and then I started practice. I started going to Dudat. Dudat said, "Don't worry, nothing. You just first follow me. You do nothing. You come, follow me." I must tell you one thing. I had never visited any court before I went to Mr. Dudat or went to practice in the High Court. Though my father was a judge, I never had visited the court hall once in my lifetime. There was no practice in those days. Nowadays, you see that when you are studying in law colleges, the teachers take you to the law college, to the courts. We see many times students visiting the High Court also. Then there are museums in the High Court. The students visit them. Students sit in the class. Sometimes some lucky student also get to sit as the article clerks of the judges. So all these things were not there in my time. Therefore, there was no question of me even visiting the court. The first time I visited the court when I joined Dudat. So Dudat realized it that he doesn't know anything about the court. So he said, "Come, you just follow me, get used to the atmosphere of the court. Don't ask any questions, just be behind me." That was my job. So I started following Dudat from court to court, from one court hall to another court hall without asking any question. And 1 week went by. And I must tell you, this is really a very interesting thing. 1 week went by and I was staying in the hostel. I was on the 3rd floor or 4th floor, and then there was a common telephone on the floor. A message came to me that there was a man from the court who had come to give you something. So I was very happy. I said somebody had come from the court. So Mr. Dudat or somebody must have arranged to give me a matter, give me a brief. So I went down. There was no matter, no brief, but it was a notice from the court in respect of a matter which was kept. It was not a court, but it was an advocate's clerk. He had given me a notice that there is a matter. I went through it, and then I realized that it was a writ petition and I was one of the party respondent. That was my first matter. I was a party respondent and somebody had filed a petition. Another student who didn't get admission to the hostel had filed a writ petition in the High Court challenging my and one or two other students' admission to the hostel. And his contention was that all these allotments are made arbitrarily and there was no guidelines in respect of admission, etc., etc. I got scared. I had no place to stay in Mumbai. I remembered that my father, while going, had told me that I had paid your 6 months hostel fees, I have paid your 3 months mess bill, and now you please try and take care of yourself, because my father's bigger salary and he had no money actually to support me in a city like Mumbai. So I got scared. I said that if I lose my hostel accommodation, what will I do? Where will I go? And then I sat there in the hostel. Then by that 8 days, I had made some friends in the hostel. You know, every day you meet people. The hostel was full of lawyers who had come to the study LLM. Most of them were either practicing in some as a junior in some senior's office, or they were actually children of the lawyers from the Moffisil. So they were thinking of going back and practicing in the Moffisil. So everybody was giving me advice. We started having a great discussion as to how this petition is to be answered. Petition was kept on Monday. We kept on going through and through. There was a lot of discussion. And ultimately, I realized that there was only one point which everybody was saying. And that point was this, that I must go to the court on Monday and ask for an adjournment. And I couldn't tell Mr. Dudat because he had done me such a favor that he has taken me as a junior, and I couldn't go to him and tell him that you appear in my matter. So I couldn't go to him and I had to go myself. And everybody told me that the only way in which you can get away is that first day you ask for an adjournment. So ultimately I decided that I will ask for an adjournment in that matter. I went there thinking that I will seek an adjournment. I was told that you must wear coat and tie and all that. So I was wearing coat and tie. I still remember the matter was before Justice Painse. And it was Justice Painse, if you know his reputation, he was a bachelor. He used to read all the matters at home. He was a very thorough judge, very meticulous. He would be thoroughly prepared with each and every matter. So, and he would finish the matter within 2, 3, 4, 5. If any senior is arguing, the matter won't last beyond 4 or 5 minutes. That was how quick Justice Painse was. I went to the court and I was standing way behind. Then the matter was called out and I wanted to go forward. I couldn't speak anything. I couldn't utter anything. I was just about to reach the dais from where I could address him. And Justice Painse came down heavily on the petitioner's lawyer, saying that what kind of writ petition you have filed? Do you think now that the High Court should start monitoring the admissions in the hostels? Who should be given admission and who should not be given admission in the hostel is a job of the High Court. Nothing doing. We will not entertain this kind of petition. And he dismissed the petition. And before I could open my mouth, the matter was dismissed. Before I could gather any courage to say anything, the matter was dismissed. I succeeded. And that was such a relief to me. But I also learned the lesson that it is better not to speak unless you are called upon to speak. Because many times you can succeed without speaking anything. So that is how I had a brush with the court. I succeeded in the matter without opening my mouth, and I had to appear in my own matter. later, after so many years, when I told this to my grandfather, after 4 or 5 years, I told this to my grandfather. He said history repeats, because it seemed that there was also an objection against him in the bar council, because he was doing the job and at the same time he had done law. So there was some kind of objection at that point of time, that how can he do it? And ultimately he had to argue his own case after becoming a lawyer before the bar council, and he succeeded. So therefore he said history repeats. I had also to face myself these kind of difficulties. You also had to face. But what I am saying here is this, that apart from the jokes, you learn from these experiences. And most important experience is this, that don't open your mouth unless you are called upon. And there is no difference between a lawyer who is practicing in the Moffisil and a lawyer who is practicing in the High Court, because everybody has to go through this. Then I was following Justice Dudat. He was very busy. He had become a senior counsel just before I became a lawyer, and just before I started deviling with him, as we say in those days. And then he couldn't, he was not filing matters. So he's told me that I must be with his junior. His junior's name was Pramod Joshi and one CM Kothari. And they used to draft all his matters. And I started learning drafting and everything. Mr. Dudat practice was very typical practice. He was not sitting in the office every day. Though he had an office in the Bajaj Bhavan at Nariman Point, he used to stay in Chembur. I used to stay in hostel at Churchgate. And in the evening, his wife was serving in Akashvan. And in the evening, her office used to get over by 4 o'clock. So Mr. Dudat used to go to pick her up, and by 4:15 he would leave and go to Chembur. So I had no office in the evening. So the whole day, I used to be with Mr. Pramod Joshi, help him in drafting the matter, but that gave me lot of time in the evening and in the afternoon. And I started sitting in Kirtikar Law Library and started reading it. It so happened that I was given a matter to draft. It was a civil revision application against an amendment which was granted by the trial court. And I started studying the law in respect of the amendment, Order 6, Rule 17. And it took me almost 1 month to prepare the petition. The order was 1-page order of granting of amendment. The application was 1-page application, and my petition became a 25 pages petition challenging that. Then it took me 1 month. But that also, that 1 month, whole 1 month, I was sitting in the Kirtikar Law Library and preparing draft, redrafting, etc. And then I was told that it was most hopeless draft which I had prepared. So I had to change that draft many more times. So this is how you start drafting your matters, but this is how it gave me chance to sit. And then I got used to sitting in the Kirtikar Law Library. So I used to follow the lawyers. Then I used to sit in the evening in Kirtikar Law Library, and I start reading whatever I could read. Very interesting thing happened in the meanwhile, that I couldn't get any matters to argue in the court, drafting hardly 1 or 2 matters. But then I realized that Dudat's junior, that is Joshi, Kothari, etc., they were filing matters, and there was a clerk who was always after them in respect of removing of the objection and getting the matter ready for hearing, as we say. And then I realized that he was not getting any responses from the other juniors. So then I realized that I must do this job. So I started going along with my Dudat's clerk and started getting entire knowledge about how to file the matters, what are the objections to be removed, how to get the matters ready, how to get the matter before the court. And especially in the afternoon in the High Court, in those days, there was known as a registrar's court. The additional registrar judicial used to sit there, and then he used to take all these matters. And then I used to be there every day in the afternoon whenever that additional registrar's court would sit. And I became expert in that additional registrar's court. And I became sort of everybody else, all other juniors also used to come there, because they also had no matters in the court. And they were finding it very difficult to get past the additional registrar and get the matter ready and to remove the objection. And I became sort of an expert on sort of a counsel for them for removal of objections. So everybody used to come to me. So I had that knowledge of the matters which where the objections, how to be removed, matters how to be filed, matters how to get them ready, and matters how to get them placed before the court. So I became very expert in that matter, and all other young juniors started telling me, look here, now you must do everything for us. So I started doing everyone's job in respect of removal of objection and started giving them all kinds of advices. Then I started drafting simultaneously was going on. Then one fine day, after spending some months with Mr. Dudar, he gave me a second appeal to be argued before Justice Sharad Manohar. This second appeal, I remember this second appeal was such that it was in respect of the property tax. And property tax those days also, today also you have to file a suit, and it was challenged by way of a suit. There was the suit, my client had lost in both the courts, but on some question of law it was admitted, it was pending for final hearing. So I was given that matter to work out. Nobody was interested in that matter, it was pending for a long time. So I read, and then I realized it, that entire case law, entire section, everything is against me. And I couldn't find any point to be argued. And I couldn't realize that how this matter was admitted. So I went to Mr. Dudar and told him, look here, there is nothing in the matter, how can I argue? So Dudar smiled at me. He said, no, whatever you can argue, you argue. You don't bother about the result of the matter. Whatever points you feel are proper points, you find out the points and argue the matter. So I said, all right, I had no choice. So I went before Justice Sharad Manohar, who was a very nice judge. So after I started stuttering and I started arguing, then he told me immediately that, look here, there are 3 judgments against you, and it is not possible for you to succeed. These are all Supreme Court judgments. This point which you are trying to raise is all covered by Supreme Court judgments. Then I started telling him that how Supreme Court judgments were wrong. Then he started laughing at me. He said, yes, as a lawyer, you have got every right to say Supreme Court judgment is wrong. But I have no right as a judge to say that the Supreme Court judgment is wrong. I have to follow the Supreme Court judgment. Then I tried to distinguish it. Then he realized it. He looked at my trouble and said, look here, it seems that this is, since how long you are practicing? I said, hardly a few months. Then he realized, is it your first matter? I said, yes. He said, I will not decide this matter against you because this is your first matter. So you take your chance before some other judge, and then you argue, try. And after few weeks, the assignment changed. The matter came before some other judge, that was Justice Pratap. He heard me patiently for 5 long minutes and dismissed the matter promptly because there was nothing in the matter. And I remember this Justice Sharad Manohar, subsequently he became ill for some reason or the other after a few years. And many lawyers went to meet him in his hospital. So I also went to meet him, and I told him that he had encouraged me. My first matter, I argued with him, and then he didn't discourage me, and he didn't dismiss my matter. That was very good and all that. So I told him that my senior had told me that go and argue whatever you want to argue, and the matter is so bad that you can't do anything bad to this matter. This is so bad that you will never succeed. So you argue whatever you want. So I told this. So Justice Sharad Manohar told me that he also had a senior. His senior was Justice Y.V. Chandrachud, and Y.V. Chandrachud used to give him a lot of matters to argue because he had large practice. And then many times he used to get bad matters to argue. So he got into the habit of arguing bad matters. And his senior also told him, don't worry, whatever you want to argue, you argue. So he started saying that he started arguing badly all the bad matters. And after some time, even if he got some good matters, still he used to argue badly because he got into the habit of arguing the matters badly. And he started laughing at me from the hospital bed. So that was, but ultimately he told me the last thing. He said, and don't worry, even if you argue badly, nothing happens. Ultimately, I became a High Court judge. So don't worry, you keep on arguing the matters, you will learn in your own way and by your own experiences and from your own mistakes. So that is how you learn, and that is how you start practicing. What I am trying to tell you is this, that life of a junior in the High Court or a Supreme Court is not different than a life of a lawyer at Sangli, Ahmednagar or Satara. Everybody has to struggle. You don't get money, you don't get matters, you don't get matters for drafting. You have to be with the clerk of the senior, and then you have to go to the offices for removal of objection and service of summons and so on and so forth. Then I started realizing that, look here, I don't get any money. What to do? I have to survive, and there are no matters in the High Court for me. Then I started going to some courts because I was staying in the hostel, and some of the hostel mates were such that they were, though from Mumbai, they were staying in hostel because they had no place in their own houses to stay. They were staying in a very cramped accommodation, but they had some contacts in Mumbai, and they used to go to the magistrate's court, and they were scared of arguing the matter. So I started going along with them to the magistrate's court. And in the magistrate court, I used to ask me to argue the matter because they were scared. And I was in the High Court. I had some kind of experience of moving around in the High Court. So I thought that I am better than the other lawyers in the magistrate's court. So in the magistrate's court, I used to go there. And we used to go sometimes in the evening court. I had argued the matter in the evening court. Evening court means the magistrate used to sit in the evening between 7 to 9 for the purposes of the beggars who are arrested or the prostitutes who are arrested and that kind of people, and where there was urgency and they had to be taken either remand or to be released on bail. So I had argued those matters also, but it gave me an experience, and it also gave me a little bit of money which was necessary. At that time, this magistrate court also had company law matters. You know, company law matters wherever you commit any default in submitting the annual returns or not taking meetings or not auditing the accounts, etc. They are all offenses for which there are criminal cases, for which you have no choice but to go and plead guilty. On every count, the magistrate fines you. So there were a lot. It was Mumbai. Most of the companies had offices in Mumbai, and there were many matters in the magistrate's court. So I used to go there. And then your job was only to see that as less fine as possible. So my job was to go to the magistrate's court, smile at him, keep him in good humor, talk to him about it, tell him the difficulties and all that, and see that the fine is as less as possible. And then I used to go there, get these matters disposed of on the first day itself by pleading guilty. And then we used to get the power also to plead guilty. Sometimes clients used to remain present, sometimes clients' presence was dispensed with and matters were disposed of. But those were the matters which we did. Then I started going to cooperative courts. I started going to the small causes court. Wherever I could get the matters, I was moving all over the Mumbai. I used to go even in the cooperative register for registration of the society. So you do everything whichever comes to your way, but that gave me some amount of money by which I could survive in Mumbai. And that was the greatest experience, but that was also giving me experience to argue the trials or conduct the trials or draft the matters, conduct the cross-examination or do some small bit of thing in various courts. I remember I used to argue, and I must tell you this, that myself and Uday Lalit, who now is the judge of the Justice Uday Lalit, who is the judge in the Supreme Court, we used to practice in some matters together. He had taken one or two matters in the Girgaon Magistrates Court under Section 145, the forcible dispossession. And all these matters there, we conducted whole trials. So we were actually going from court to court, conducting the trial in the magistrate's court. Subsequently, he shifted from Mumbai to Delhi. Subsequently, he became junior of Justice Soli Sorabji, and then rest is history. He became the Supreme Court judge. But what I am trying to tell you is this, that he also initially practiced in the magistrate's court, practiced in the High Court, and then shifted to the Supreme Court. So it is all, you get experiences everywhere. And I started getting it. Some of the experience were out of, world. One great experience was practicing in the cooperative court. Mumbai cooperative court were such, some of you must have gone there. Mumbai cooperative court were class by itself. They were in a small building on one or two floors. The courts all were so cramped and so small. The judge had a very small dais. He also had a chamber just behind his dais. I mean, he could just get down from the dais and he would enter his chamber because he did that. And there was no door to the chamber. There was only a curtain between the chamber and the dais. So he would just remove the curtain, get on the dais, sit in the chair, get back, get into the chamber. So I used to argue matter before him, and I remember distinctly. Once I was arguing some Exhibit 5 or some matter before him. It was in respect of some society's issues. And while my argument was going on, suddenly the telephone rang. In those days, the huge black telephone, MTNL's telephone was there. So that telephone started ringing. So this judge, he bent, stretched his hand because his chamber was just behind and lifted the telephone. He lifted the receiver. I stopped. I said, he is getting the phone call. He didn't rise from the chair. He just stretched, lifted the telephone, lifted the receiver, looked at me, told me, you continue. And while I continued my argument, he kept on talking on telephone. And then after some time, his telephone conversation was over. He again placed the receiver back on the cradle and thereafter again asked me to continue. And I continued the matter. Ultimately, after a few minutes, he said, all right, I have heard you, I have heard the other side. And I think I am in your favor. So you do one thing, you write your own judgment and bring it to me. So I said, what is this? I can't do this. So I ultimately didn't do it. Ultimately, he didn't give the judgment also in my favor. But these kind of experiences you get. And he said it in front of open court hall that yes, I heard you. It is in your favor, but you prepare your own judgment. So these kind of experiences you get in your life. I realize that I will never be able to do this. But then that gave you money for arguing the matter, that gave you experience of the small causes court, for the cooperative court, or the magistrates court, and then you go all over. But then thereafter I started getting matters in the High Court also. It so happened that I had studied, as I told you, in Jalgaon, Dhule, and then Ahmednagar was my native place. So I knew many people from these places. So what happened was this, that these people started sending me matters from these places. And then, this is the topic is struggle of the lawyer. So then I started getting matters in the High Court. I started reducing my practice in the trial courts. The moment I started getting more matters, I started reducing the matters in the trial court, or I started going there occasionally. But then came the problem that by that time Aurangabad bench was already established, where earlier only Marathwada districts were connected to Aurangabad bench. After some time, they connected first Ahmednagar to Aurangabad because it was close to Aurangabad. That happened when I was getting matters from Ahmednagar. So suddenly I was about to little bit settle down. All the matters from Ahmednagar went to the Aurangabad. I couldn't help it. Thereafter, I started getting matters from Jalgaon and Dhule because by that time, my classmates were practicing there. They knew me. They were sending me matters. So I started getting more and more matters from Jalgaon and Dhule. Next step came, Jalgaon and Dhule were attached to the Aurangabad bench. All those matters gone. So therefore, the moment you start practicing, the matters suddenly stopped after 2-3 years. Suddenly you feel that you are a little bit stabilizing in your practice. The matters go. Now, this is a problem. This problem will arise in everybody's practice. Like today, this COVID, you are not getting any matters. The juniors suffer. But then you have to start finding out ways and means to do something different. So then I started thinking what is to be done. Again, went back to the trial courts because in Mumbai I was getting, by that time I started getting matters little bit from Pune and Nashik also. But then one more important thing happened. In those days, in 1984, Bhopal gas tragedy took place. And after 86 or 85, immediately after the accident, after 6 months or so, they were in search of a junior lawyer. Because they had a lot of seniors, but there was no junior, and their head office was in Mumbai. Though the cases were going on in Bhopal, their head office was in Mumbai. They wanted somebody to collect the papers, collate the papers, and do everything. So all this job, they wanted a junior lawyer. and they didn't want me to appear in the courts. I said, somebody referred my name to them, saying that he is a junior, but he does a lot of drafting. He knows how to collect the papers. He knows how to keep the files and all that. So he's good. So they came to me. Somebody referred. I went there, and I was selected, and I started going to Bhopal. So that Bhopal gas tragedy, I still go there. But then subsequently, I was started going there. I started going there once or twice in a month, and I started getting some fixed amount from that matter, which was a good break for me. But then in 86, they did one more thing. I was going there for 1 year. They realized that it's better that I should join them as their in-house lawyer or as their legal manager or assistant legal manager. That was a big thing. I had no place of my own. I was staying in hostel. From hostel, I think around 85, because I passed out around 83, 84. And I had another problem to stay. So I had taken on rent a very small room in in Chembur, in a big slum area. But there was a small society of the scientists where they had spare room. That one spare room was given to me on rent, and I was staying there. So I had no place of my own, no settled practice. And they gave me an offer and said that now you join us as an assistant legal advisor. They showed me a nice, beautiful flat at Carter Road, Bandra. They said that this accommodation is available to you. You can stay here. They showed me a beautiful office at Opera House. They said, this is your own office. You will get a nice steno, a Christian steno lady. Of course, I mean, she was a middle-aged lady. Don't get ideas about her. But then good stenographer, good office, car, you could travel by plane. All these offers came at 85 and a fixed salary. I realized that I almost said yes to that. But it was such a huge opportunity for me that I would settle down in office in 1 minute, because I'll get office, I'll get a flat to stay, get a car, and everything is made. But then I realized that it is not my job, because I wanted to practice. I wanted to be in the court. I wanted to argue all the time. That you'll have to take your own decision. I had to take my own decision. And somehow or the other, I convinced myself that no, I must be in the court. And I told them, sorry, I cannot join you. Now, we see this, that this is also a problem you will face in your life, whether to join the judiciary or whether not to join the judiciary, whether to become a lawyer or assistant lawyer or assistant legal manager in some company or not. But then it is for everyone to decide for themselves whether they want to practice as a lawyer in the court of law. There are vast fields available. People go only for convincing. They just do the convincing practice. People do many things. They go into taxation. They never visit the courts and all that. There are many people like solicitors in Mumbai. They do all kinds of things, but they don't go to, they say, I'm in a non-litigation practice. So that you will have to take decision. And these are the times of struggle. So therefore, but you take your own decision. And I took my decision and I didn't regret it, because subsequently I got a lot of practice while practicing in the High Court. But that was because I had conviction that I meant to practice only in the court, and I am supposed to argue in the court, cross-examination, etc. I did all sorts of things in my life. I conducted trial, I conducted sessions, but every experience gave you more knowledge. Now I must tell you one thing, that I used to go to inquiry officers also. There were inquiries being held, three kinds of inquiries. Inquiries before the Bombay Municipal Corporation Act under Section 195B for eviction of the tenants. So those used to be held by an inquiry officer. They used to record evidence and all that. I used to go there. Then inquiries were conducted in the offices. Departmental inquiry where lawyers were permitted. I have conducted departmental inquiries. I have conducted departmental inquiries in the High Court itself. In the High Court, there were inquiries against the not conducted inquiry, means I appeared on behalf of the delinquents. In the High Court, where the registrar used to hold the inquiry against the delinquent staff like stenographers or the judge's clerk or the peon, and I have appeared for them. So you do all kinds of matters, you get experience and you get knowledge. And I must tell you, I remember one time I was arguing a matter before an inquiry officer of the Bombay Municipal Corporation for eviction of tenants. And I was arguing as if, I knew everything. That poor inquiry officer thought that I must be some kind of resigned judge, or I must be, because at that time I was quite young, or I must be some experienced and young looking resigned judge, or judge who is thrown out. So he asked me, he said, after the matter is over, please meet me. And when I met him, he asked me that he has some matter in the court and whether I would appear for him. So you see, sometimes you get this kind of experience where before a person you are arguing, he asks you to assist him in his own matter. I remember I used to go to Bhiwandi to conduct the trials. So the struggle is there. So you go there, you enjoy it. So I went to Bhiwandi to conduct a trial. And I remember in those days, one Mr. Mistry and one Mr. Hingorani, those very senior lawyers, very outstanding lawyers, I must say, they were opposing me in respect of some power loom dispute between two huge big families. And I was asked to go and argue a matter of Exhibit 5 because the person thought that every lawyer in Bhiwandi is against him and he will not get justice from a lawyer from Bhiwandi. So he said, you must come from Mumbai because you will be impartial. That was his impression. But so I went from Mumbai, I argued the matter, some Exhibit 5 again in Bhiwandi. And I must tell you one thing, those Hingorani and Mr. Mistry were opposing me. But they were gracious, they heard me, they argued against me vehemently. Ultimately, I won the matter. And please remember this, afterwards, after 1 or 2 months after that matter was over, they started sending matters and references to me for the matters in the High Court. So my opponents started giving me matters. So every opportunity you can, if you argue properly, if you argue it, even your opponents like it, and your opponent can give you the matter. So therefore, it was absolutely whatever experience I could gain from every court, I took it. I conducted sessions matters. So struggling days, you get a chance to conduct the sessions, you go and conduct the session matter. But these are the times that by that time I was little bit settled, few little bit money. Then I decided to get married. So myself and my wife collected whatever we have saved, got loan, and then we couldn't afford a place anywhere else. So we went to stay in Thane, which was around 45 kilometers away from Mumbai, where I used to practice. From Thane, I started commuting every day to Mumbai, me and my wife, and we started practicing in Mumbai. So these are the experiences, these are the things, but I must tell you, these court case, the travel in the train was so enjoyable. So it was not, knowledgeable. You would get every day in the train, you would travel with the lawyers who are going to the High Court. And then these lawyers would narrate their experiences with you. And it was a great experience also to be with these lawyers. I will give you an example. At that point of time when I was traveling from Thane to Mumbai, I was conducting a sessions trial in respect of an offence under section 376. And I was conducting the cross-examinations of some witnesses. In those days, the matter used to go almost from day to day. And when every day, it was a 376 matter, and there was a corporator of Bombay Municipal Corporation, a very poor corporator, who used to stay in a huts, small Dharavi kind of place. He was actually a Ghatkopar kind of large slum, and he was a slum dweller, but he was a corporate, and there was a 376 charge against him. And every day in the train, it was so interesting that I used to, everybody used to ask me, because there were discussion among the friends that what is happening today in your trial. So I used to tell them such and such witness is coming. Then what would be the cross-examination? Everybody used to give me advice that what I should do. I must tell you, one of those travelers was also an ex-public prosecutor. So he used to give me advice that what the public prosecutor would brief to the prosecution witness, and he would do what and what should you do. So it became very interesting because case was 376. So everybody in that compartment started listening to me. Next day I used to go back and report as to how my cross-examination went. So this went on for days together. Ultimately, that matter was over. I conducted arguments and all that. It so happened that the other commuters started getting interested in that matter, those who were not lawyers. They started asking me that what happened in the matter, what was the witness said, and all that kind of thing. Ultimately, one day the matter was decided, I succeeded. The whole compartment, including lawyers, non-lawyers, celebrated it. So that is how that commuting from Thane to Mumbai was also enjoyable. It was also knowledgeable. It gave me idea on cross-examination as to what questions to be asked and what questions not to be asked. So this is the way, even though you are struggling is one part of life. At the same time, you can learn from your struggles. You can utilize these struggles to your own advantage. So traveling in a crowded train was an absolutely bad thing. I mean, it was not very healthy thing. But otherwise, I could get knowledge of cross-examination. A public prosecutor who experienced public prosecutor who was sitting in the train used to give me all kinds of hints, what to be expected, what is to be expected from the witness, how I should cross-examine. That is how you develop your skill from every way, which way you can. Now thereafter, from Thane, I started having a very small office. I first rented it and then purchased it. The loaner gave me installments. So at 200 square feet office. So I started commuting day in and day out, 24/7. I was a lawyer. I used to go there. So go from Thane to Mumbai, sit in my office. When I came back from Mumbai to Thane, 24/7 you're lawyer. Saturday, Sunday, lawyers like Sangli, Satara, Kolhapur would come to my place. And then I would argue, I would get the briefing from them, and I would argue in the High Court. This is the way you start. So everybody starts having great struggle. Everybody struggles, but you must positively look at those struggles. That is what the intention is. I must give you some examples, like Ajay Khanvilkar, Justice Ajay Khanvilkar, who is the judge in the Supreme Court today. He was also used to travel. He used to travel with us in the train compartment. He was staying at Mulund. He used to stay in a chawl at Mulund. There was no family background. None of his family members were lawyers. He was junior of Mr. Pradhan, and he had for all along when he was studying. His father had a small shop at Masjid Bandar. So he used to study at Mulund from in the morning. In the afternoon, after leaving from the college, he would go and help his father at Masjid Bandar throughout the day in a very small shop, a spare part shop kind of thing. And in the evening, he used to return back from his Masjid Bandar shop, and he used to help his father again in the household chores and all that. So all this kind of thing, he struggled. Ultimately, when he was practicing in the High Court, he said that all of you are getting matters from the district places. I don't get any matters from the district places. What should I do? And one fine morning, he decided that he would go to the Supreme Court to practice. He went to Supreme Court, and rest is history. So what I am saying is this, that everybody struggles. Everybody struggles in their own way. But we must learn from their struggle. We must also struggle, but we must learn from our struggles. So what I was saying at this point of time is this, that all along, everybody will have some kind of problem or the other. Today we are having COVID-19 problem. COVID-19, because of COVID-19, nobody is going to the court, or virtual courts are there. So therefore, you must remember one thing, that not that everybody will get chances because of their fathers are lawyer or their somebody's lawyer. There are many people, as I said, Justice Khanvilkar's example is there. None of his family members were lawyer, but still he went to the Supreme Court. I gave you the example of Justice Lalit. Even though his father was an ex-judge of the High Court, he started from scratch, started practicing in the magistrate's court, then practiced in the High Court, and then went to practice in the Supreme Court. So everybody struggles to get matters, everybody struggles to, but I must tell you one thing, today we are going through the COVID-19 situation. Now this COVID-19 situation is such that many people, they are calling me. In those days also, Many lawyers used to call, us after we start, before COVID-19, that we are struggling, what to do. We are really feeling suffocated. We don't get matters and all that. So I was telling them that, look here, you will always get matters, but initial struggle is there. Subsequent rewards in the profession are far higher. Once you are settled in the practice after the initial struggle, the subsequent reward in the practice are like in nowhere else. You will get so much money which you are earning in the practice after you settle down. But the initial struggle is there, and this initial struggle you will have to go through it, and you will have to learn to survive this struggling period. Now this is because of this COVID-19, the legal practice is changing. Now, change is inevitable. You see, the change is inevitable. All along, there have always been changes in the manner in which we practice, the method in which we practice, or the subject matter in which we practice, or the courts in which we practice. Just to give you an example, like, initially, when in 1960s and all that, I'm not going far back, what was there? That practice was what? Bombay Tenancy and Agriculture's Lands Act practice, thereafter Mamledar Courts practice, then thereafter Fragmentation and Consolidation Act, in between there was Watan Abolition Act. So all these acts practice was there, and those one after another, all these laws came in the year 1960, 61, 62, immediately after the BTNL Act came in 1957, that changed of 1457, etc. So all this gave the lawyers, every new law gave hundreds of matters. That practice changed totally. Before that, lawyers were doing something else. Then this Watan Abolition Act also came in because of the independence, 1960s onwards. All Watans were abolished. That created hundreds of matters, that created hundreds of suits. Agricultural Land Ceiling Act, Fragmentation of Consolidation Act. So all this change keeps on. Every new law brought in new matters. Every new matter brought in more litigants. More lawyers benefited from him. So they were practicing in these different tribunals, like Agricultural Land Tribunal came, MRT was established. They were not practicing only in the civil court. From civil court, they had to go to the MRT, they had to go to the Agricultural Land Tribunal, or the consolidation to the commissioner in consolidation matters. So the practice kept on changing, the nature of practice came on changing. Like tribunalization, there are many tribunals in those days, as I was pointing out, Agricultural Land Tribunal, then revenue land tribunals. So all these were initial tribunals. Then subsequently you started getting different kind of tribunals, like then MAT was established. Initially there was also Charity Commissioner's Office. Many people started practicing in the Charity Commissioner's offices in respect of before the Assistant Charity Commissioner, Deputy Charity Commissioner, then Charity Commissioner, and then to the District Court back. So therefore, a new act came in, Bombay Public Trust Act, and the Charity Commissioner started, the Bombay Public Trust Act's practice started growing. So change is inevitable. Every time new tribunals are there. Then Maharashtra Administrative Tribunal came, Central Administrative Tribunal came, Motor Accident Claims Tribunal came. At that point, they are also now settled, and there are many matters before Maharashtra Motor Accident Claims Tribunal. Then thereafter, those who are practicing in taxation, they were CGAT, then sales tax tribunals. So therefore, all these tribunals created a lot of field for practicing lawyers. So now today, we have what news are green tribunals. Today, the Commercial Court Act is the latest thing, because now there will be a lot of commercial courts litigation. Now you remember one thing, because of these, there are many contracts which are being breached. There are many supplies which are not being made, and there are bound to be dispute after this COVID-19 is over between the traders and merchants in respect of many aspects. So therefore, these commercial disputes will increase. There are public interest litigation is on increase. I must tell you, public interest litigation, though it has increased, way back when Mahamopadhyay Kane, the great Bharat Ratna Mahamopadhyay Kane, who was the president of our bar, had in fact filed a public interest litigation. He had filed a suit. He had filed a suit in respect of Pandharpur's Vithoba temple, where tonsured widows were not being given admission for going to the temple. And then he filed a suit with his own money, with his own research. He said that Hindu ideology doesn't permit this. They can be admitted, they should be admitted. Ultimately, he succeeded in that. But that was the public interest litigation, mind you. It was not a litigation it was litigation in favor of all those tonsured widows. That was the way Bharat Ratna Kani started way back prior to 1950s. He had filed this kind of litigation. Now, I must also point out to you that there are public interest litigation also. Public interest litigation, when they started, they were also totally different way. I mean, people did not know what kind of litigation is to be filed. But today, there are so many public interest litigation. I must tell you one example of public interest litigation, which is a very interesting example. Public interest litigation, I remember Justice Puranik's bench was sitting, and he used to sit in the afternoon, and morning sessions, afternoon he used to sit at around 3 o'clock. And normally course time was 2:45, but he used to reach the office, the court hall at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, he sat in a division bench, and one of the lawyers, he rushed to the court and said that there is an extremely urgent matter which he must take immediately. So he was asked that why the matter has to be taken immediately. He said that, look here, the matter is greatly urgent, sir, it must be heard immediately. The judge said that, all right, we'll hear it tomorrow at 11 o'clock if there is so urgent. He said, no, it can't wait till tomorrow also, till 11 o'clock. This matter has to be heard now because the train is leaving at 4 o'clock. So the judge said, why? What is going to happen? He said, no, train is leaving at 4 o'clock and I have filed a petition that the train must stop at station Nandgaon. You see, my client has a ticket of Punjab Mail which will leave at 4 o'clock and it had a stop at Nandgaon. But that stop, got a reservation, but the railway has taken decision that today onwards the train will not stop at Nandgaon. And I am filing a public interest litigation that all those travelers who wanted to alight at Nandgaon will suffer. And therefore, you must immediately hear me. It was according to him, it was a public interest litigation. It must be heard immediately. An order must be passed that the train must stop at Nandgaon. And on top of it, his client had a ticket for Nandgaon. He has reserved it long back, and that reservation is for Nandgaon. Justice Puranik was flabbergasted. He didn't know what to say. But then Justice Puranik was a very experienced judge. So he started laughing at me, him smiling at him. And he said, oh, so you want the train to stop at Nandgaon? So he asked him that who can stop the train at Nandgaon? So that lawyer gave an answer that the driver can stop the train at Nandgaon. He said, and who else can stop the train? So he said, the guard can stop the train at Nandgaon. So then thereafter, Justice Puranik smiled at him and he said, have you made the driver and the guard as a party respondent to this petition? So he had not made them as party respondent. So he said, how can I give any direction if they are not party respondent? So therefore, this petition must be dismissed for non-joinder of necessary party. But people used to file that kind of public interest litigation also. Today, public interest litigation is a totally different aspect. It has reached such a height that everything under the sun, you can file public interest litigation. What I am trying to say is this, that the change is inevitable. Their ways and the subject matter of practice will differ. Tribunals may differ. Like today, the Green Tribunal is there. Tomorrow, there will be another tribunal. The lawyer who is a budding lawyer, who is struggling lawyer, he must be aware about the changes which are taking place. As I was telling you earlier, when the Maharashtra Administrative Tribunal started, many lawyers from the High Court went to the Administrative Tribunal and started practicing exclusively in the service matters. And there are many juniors included in that who became subsequently very good lawyers. In cooperative court, when they started in the early part, many persons from cooperative department resigned and started practicing, and many other lawyers started practicing in cooperative field. So the change is inevitable. We must be aware of change. But there are technological changes. Now, this is in respect of this virtual court. Technological changes also, they kept on happening for a long time. Just see, when I started practicing, we were writing matters by hand, then sitting next to the typist, telling him what to type word by word, because he couldn't understand our handwriting and he used to make a lot of mistakes. And then thereafter we used to get it typed. In Supreme Court, you had to make many copies. There were no copiers available, so they used to cyclostyle the petitions. They used to prepare 20, 30 copies by cyclostyling it. We had no cyclostyling machines. Then there we used to use the carbon copies. So you used to, in the typewriter, you used to fix a carbon behind every page, and you used to get carbon copies, and you could get hardly 2-3 carbon copies. Then came the age of Xeroxing. Then everybody started Xeroxing. I remember in 1990, after the Xeroxing machine came, there were many judges who were not accepting Xeroxes because they were kerosene Xerox machines, and the page used to smell of kerosene. So we got used to Xeroxing. The machines changed. Everybody started Xeroxing. We used to carry briefs in the court, and we used to carry the case law. That is the reported judgment, means you take the entire volume of that year to the court and show the learned judge the judgment from that volume. Thereafter, we started Xeroxing it. Thereafter, came the computers. Initially, they were desktop. In my office in 1992, I fixed the first desktop. So I remember that. Thereafter, you get laptop. Thereafter, mobile phones came in the year 1990. So every change, we have adopted to the change. Today, everybody uses WhatsApp. Today, everybody uses mobile. Today we are having a webinar. I am sitting at my home. Everybody is sitting at home and discussing it. So this technology will keep on. Today we are not used to the virtual court, but we must adapt ourselves to this change in the technology. What I am telling all my friends here is this, that the struggle is inevitable. Change is inevitable. Those who adopt to the changes, they will succeed. Those who don't adopt to these changes, they will keep on struggling throughout the life. But I must tell you one thing, don't get discouraged, don't get disheartened, because anyway, every lawyer has a niche for himself. He will have always some kind of the other, he will find his way through and he will have practice. But for that, you must remember 2-3 mantras. You must have knowledge. Knowledge is a power. And knowledge, I mean not knowledge of law. You can get the knowledge by experience, knowledge of everything. Knowledge, if you have a good common sense, if you have a knowledge of law, knowledge doesn't mean that you must know everything about every law. It is impossible for anybody to know it. So what you should do is this, that you must have knowledge and you must acquire the knowledge, and knowledge means everything. You must know the judge. No doesn't mean personally know him. You must know thy judge before you know thy case. That means that you must know the judge's views. What matters he has decided. In these kind of matters, what is his approach? What does he like? Whether some judges like the judgments to be cited, some judges don't like judgments to be cited. So you must beforehand know. If you have a discussion in the bar, if you go to the court, if you keep your eyes wide open, you will know that the judge is expecting what from you. That is also a knowledge. You can give this knowledge to your friend who has a matter before that court. That is how we gather the knowledge. Knowledge of the matters, facts, knowledge of the law, knowledge of the judge before whom the matter is being argued. So knowledge is very important. This knowledge gives you power. If you have more knowledge than your opponent, you will argue matter far better and your chances of succeeding will increase. Then another mantra is this, that you must be organized. There is no way. Today's world, you must be organized. Like earlier, we used to have diaries which were maintained. Now you can, in the mobile phone, you can have your own calendar in various ways, whatever way which is suitable to you. But you must be organized. Organized means it is very important that you must have your either typist or the stenographer or the clerk. You must be organized, where to reach him, how to reach him in case of emergency. You must see that he gets all kinds of stationery, whatever is available. All this you have to organize your office, you have to organize yourself, you have to organize filing. That is very important. Then there is a question of time management. You must be able to manage your time in such a manner that you will be able to give maximum output, in the sense that you will utilize your time properly. You must utilize the time for your own health. You must utilize the time for your family. You must utilize the time for preparing the matters. You must have enough time for arguing the matter. All this time management is a part of very, very important aspects in developing your practice. Networking is another aspect. Most important is that you must have network of friends. You must have network. So be polite to everyone. Be good to everyone. Not only in the court before the judges. Be polite and good to everyone surrounding you. The more friends you have, the more matters you are going to get. And the most important, when you earn the knowledge of law, is reading habits. Keep on reading anything under the sun. Read novels, read newspapers, read magazines, read books, read gossip, but keep on reading. Don't read WhatsApp. WhatsApp, then you have to first consider whether it is correct or a fake WhatsApp or not. I don't subscribe to that WhatsApp university. But you must read. Keep on reading, and reading, I must tell you, most important is that reading law means reading commentaries. So when you are struggling, you must read a commentary. You must read. No, don't go only by giving the words in the search engine. Try to find out some judgment and then show off the judgment without understanding what is the meaning of that judgment. But if you read commentary, you know why this judgment is decided. In good commentaries like Mullah's commentaries, or there are many commentaries available on, I mean, I'm talking about CPC, but there are many commentaries in the Sarkar's commentary on evidence, GP Singh's commentary on interpretation of statutes. There are so many commentaries. If you read them, Sirwai's constitution, if you read them, you get critical analysis of every section, and you know the history of the section, you know why the section has come, and so you must read commentaries. So therefore, these are the things which are, while struggling, this is where you inculcate good habits. And therefore, and last 2-3 aspects, and then I think I'm already I'm going much over the time which is allotted to me. But you must remember one thing, that while practicing, you must be very honest to your client. You must be honest to the judges, and you must be honest to the cause. Honesty is the best policy, because by honesty, your conscience remains clean and clear. You get sleep in the evening nicely. You have no problems whatsoever. And if you are not honest, it creates problem for you. Not only mental problem, but it will create problems and hindrances. Your reputation you will lose. The moment you lose your reputation, you will lose matters. If you lose matters, though, you will not get good practice. So all these things happen. So therefore, honesty is the best policy. There are hundreds of things. You don't have to lie. I can tell you, and honestly, sincerely, I can tell you, I've never lied in my life in any matter. You don't have to, because by telling the same fact, if you have knowledge of law, you can always argue those facts to your own advantage. In every matter, there are some points which are good points, which are in your favor, which you can exploit. So you can exploit the points which are in your favor by telling the truth also. There you don't have to lie to succeed. Most of the great lawyers have succeeded by following the policy of honesty. They don't have to lie. So therefore, and most important, lastly, before I finish it, that you must have balance in life and practice. You must have also, all work and no fun makes Johnny a dull boy. So you guys, you must have fun also. You must go for picnics. You must meet your friends, because you can't just keep on practicing without doing anything else. You must balance your life, and you must balance your practice. So therefore, friends, today I thought that we will meet. I will tell you few of my experiences. I will tell you that how I struggle. I will tell you that how I am not different from you at all. I am same as you. I have struggled as you have struggled. I am little bit better, because now my hair have gone white, and people feel that those who have white hair have more knowledge. So I get more matters. So that is how I get more matters. But otherwise also, there is not big difference between you and me. Many times my juniors instruct me, and I find that they are telling me, and what they are telling me is much better than the plan I have in respect of the matters to be argued. So therefore, I think that there is no gap between the lawyers from Sangli, Satara, Solapur or Kolhapur and the lawyers who practice in Mumbai High Court. Everybody has to go through the struggle. Everybody has to face changes. Everybody has to face difficult times. But the future is bright, and you will earn if you stick to your practice. You will never repent and you will never regret. And that's what I wanted to say today. Be safe, stay at home, and whenever the courts reopen, go and start practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for those golden words. I would say a rather golden session this would be. Such a motivating, such a positive session from you, sir. And knowledge, inspired, so much knowledge with you, sir, and yet so humble, yet so grounded. That is what a young lawyer should learn from you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for such a insightful session and such a motivating session once again. Now, there are questions which have been pouring in from the students. I will be taking a few questions, sir, because we have the time constraint. The first question comes from a law student, Animesh Zadav. The question goes, it's frightening to hear stories like in this profession, you either need a godfather or you should be born in a family of lawyers or spend at least 5 years of from your first in getting your first brief. What is your take, sir?
Two things. First and foremost is that you don't require a godfather or you don't require somebody from your family to be lawyer. And in my speech, I just pointed out one of the glaring example is a sitting Supreme Court judge, Justice Ajay Khanvilkar, never had any godfather or anybody. There was nobody in his family who was a lawyer. And as I told you that he started practice by going from Mulund. So that is one thing. So, and in any profession, when you start, please remember one thing. Lawyer practices on his own. There are no fixed salaries. Sometimes seniors give stipend. That is never enough. That is meager. But to start off, if you after doing law, if you are thinking that I must get a fixed salary, then you must look for a job. But initial struggle is always there. But this struggle is like a probation period. Utilize this struggling period for augmenting your knowledge. And by the time the first matter comes to you, you must already have the knowledge and experience by at least sitting in the court, by following your senior, by reading your own matters or reading seniors' matter. That unless you get that experience, you will not. And you see, that struggle is everywhere. If you want to become a cricketer, you will have to struggle at each and every level. So don't worry. Everybody will have his own day. Everybody will have nice practice. But initial struggle is there. For some people, the struggle is less. For some people, struggle is more. But I don't believe that those who come with a golden spoon or come with a heritage get better chances. I don't believe in that. There are many examples which I can give you. I just gave you one example.
Noted, sir. Justice Khanvilkar, sir, story which you shared, I would like to tell you, sir, the Vasantrao Patil Training Center was inaugurated at the auspicious hands of Khanvilkar, sir. So
Yeah,
the next question.
That's
Yes.
very nice to hear. And see, that is how things come together. The world is round.
Thank you so much.
We are all together.
Yes, sir. The next question comes from Advocate Surel Shah of Bombay High Court. The question, sir, goes, sir, share your knack of remembering the case laws which has helped him.
You see, remembering case law is a very interesting aspect.
So you might share it with the young lawyers.
Yes. Remembering the case law is a very interesting aspect. Everybody must develop their own way of remembering the case law. The best way to do is this, that you must keep your own diary, and whenever you have read the matter, you have your own diary, write it down and have it properly collated. But the other way which I do is normally is this, that I always remember the matter or the judgment which I read by two things. One, by the facts of that case. Every case has some interesting facet which you read. Secondly, I always read the names of the judges and who has decided what and how his view is different. Earlier view was what. So therefore, once you study that matter or study that case, subsequently, whenever you are reading some other matter, suddenly you realize that there is another matter which was decided way back, and then you can recollect it by the judge's name, you can recollect it by the facts, and you can recollect it by the section. That is how I remember it. I have not made any conscious effort, but just because, as I told you, I was always interested in reading, and during that I used to read the manner in which. So whenever somebody asks me what is the judgment on this point, I may not be able to give him the exact page number, but I can certainly give him the judges who has decided, the manner in which he has decided, and the year in which he has decided. That is how you recollect. Everybody has to follow his own way and adopt a methodology to remember the case law.
Noted, sir. Adopt's question comes from Pooja Kimani, who is a law student. The question goes, sir, the general perception is that litigation has a very long gestation period. Would you like to say something on this which would motivate the young lawyers?
You see, please remember one thing. You look at the litigation means what? Litigation for totally fructifying is a different thing. That means first you file a matter, then the matter is heard, evidence is given, final judgment is given, appeal is given, etc., etc., etc. So the matter, it will take long time to get the matter decided. But in every matter, there are interim stages where either you have to get some interim orders in favor of your client, or you have to get certain, apart from interim orders, you have to see that the property is protected or that the property is not destroyed, or there are some restraints against the defendant, that as and when you succeed, your clients will get the fruits of it. So therefore, there are different stages. Every stage is fructifying and satisfying experience. It is not as if that you get satisfaction or you get money or the matter gets fructified after a long gestation period. Every time, every matter has a different stage, and every stage by itself is a very important stepping stone of the matter's ultimate culmination or ultimate result. So therefore, there is no long gestation period. If you have to break it down and say that you get fructification at every level of the litigation.
Noted, sir. The next question is from Advocate Chirag Sonecha. The question goes, what are the key aspects to be considered by a lawyer while preparing for an argument?
First and foremost, when you prepare for your argument, you must be master of the facts of the case. That is most important. You must know each and every different factual aspect of the matter, the factual evidence which is there, whether it is an interim stage or the final stage, and you must be master of the facts. For the time being, leave the law to the judges. That is what we say. So that is the one important aspect. The second aspect is the law. As I said, that either you leave it to the court or you study. If you have time, then look at the law. That is the second aspect of the matter. Look at the law, the latest law, what is the law on the point, and how, which kind of judgments are beneficial to us, and then put the best point forward. Third thing is this, that your presentation in the court is very important. And for presentation, you must know the judge's views, you must know the judge's personality, and you must be very, so how you present in the court and where you begin, because well begun is half done. So how you begin your argument is very important. Your opening remarks, opening statements are very important. So therefore, three things: facts, law, opening statements. These are the three things which you must concentrate when you prepare your arguments.
Noted, sir. The next question is from Sagar Rao. The question goes, how can a student choose a field of law with so many venues available? Any
I'm sorry, your voice is breaking. But can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
How can a student choose a... So am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. The question goes, sir, how can a student choose a field of law with so many avenues available? Any guidance on that aspect?
Two aspects. One is that a student has to choose himself, which he is interested in what. But I must tell you one thing, it is very difficult. Many times you yourself don't know what are you interested in. I'm telling you frankly. So therefore, it is very difficult to choose. But first thing is this, that many today's student I find that they decide that either they want to do criminal law or the civil law. But my advice to everyone who comes to me is this, that I tell him that first you must have first to divide the practice into two aspects. One is either you want to go for either civil or criminal, you go by your own liking. A. B. Then when you choose either civil or criminal, then there are different aspects of in the civil practice also vast. There is a taxation practice, there is a like service matters are there, commercial matters are there, etc. Now most of the people what they choose is where they would get more money. That is how everybody looks at it. Criminal always there is a glamour, therefore people go for criminal. And because many times you see all these criminal trials in the movies and all that. So many people are, because the glamour is attached to the criminal law practice, so they go there. My advice is this, that you must find out what is your inclination towards. A. First categorize it in the broad 2-3 categories. After that, thereafter you choose. After you start, if you go to civil, then have more experience, because unless you have experience about various matters, you would not know where you fit in, what you like. So initially have broader practice. So when you go to civil, go and get experience of whatever matter as a junior by assisting others, or even by sitting in the court. Find out your liking and then zero in where you would like to practice. That is how you have to go about it. And the last and the best formula is this, which many people follow, that wherever you go, you keep on being there. So you get more knowledge about that. The more knowledge you get, more comfortable you feel, and you get adopted in that kind of practice. It is how it is.
Yes, sir, noted. The next question is from Advocate Navjeet Sulyan. The question goes, sir, what is your opinion about the junior advocates getting salary in their juniorship practice?
Two things. Firstly, I personally feel that there is no necessity for the stipend to be given to the junior or salary to be given to the junior, because it is you must give juniors all the help, in the sense you must give him books, you must give him library membership, you must see that he gets all the wherewithal which is possible for him to acquire the knowledge. Once the salary is given, then that junior is used as a servant, and the junior also get used to that salary, and he tries to adjust himself within that salary, so he himself doesn't remain ambitious. So therefore that is one aspect of the matter. And second, as a senior, what I do is this, that whenever possible, always I give the entire matter or a new matter which I cannot handle to my juniors, and I make them independent. My insistence is this, that a junior must become independent as early as possible. He shouldn't remain dependent. I don't want to name, but I have seen juniors on salary working with the seniors for 40 years, for 30 years. Sometimes in one example, he was a junior for 50 years on a salary. So therefore, it is not good for any junior to be on the salary. But all help should be given by the senior, and senior should give matters to the junior. That is the way I look at it.
So one more question from advocate to viral. It goes that there is always a situation where a case comes up involving a law which has never been handled before. How should a lawyer deal with such kind of situation?
The first aspect, a very good question. The first aspect is this, that then whichever law is there, even if the case is not handled by the court, while enacting that law, there is lot of literature available if you make the research. First is this, that there is a statement of object and reasons of that law. Then there is a statement or there is a preamble to that law. Then there are arrangements of the various sections of that law. So therefore, first you study that. Then there are sometimes reports. The law commission's reports are there before, and based on those reports, the acts are enacted. So you get to know the object of the law. You get to know the preamble of the law. You get to know the reason why the law is enacted, and then you see the various sections, their arrangement, and then you interpret yourself the law. Why this law or why this law has been enacted? That is the object of the law, and then you can interpret the section, and thereafter you can argue the matter on the basis of interpretation of the section. That is one part of it. Then second aspect is this, that the similar, even though the entire law may not be same, there are similar sections, there are similar words which are used in other enactments. So you study those words and sections from other enactments and the judgments which are decided, and from them onwards you get to study the law, which, as you said, has never been argued before.
Coming to the last question, sirs, it comes from Dr. Narendra Zawळे. मराठीत विचारलाय त्यांनी प्रश्न. आजच्या काळात यशस्वी वकील होण्यासाठी आजची न्यायालयीन व्यवस्था आणि देशांतर्गत परिस्थिती यांची काय भूमिका असेल?
परत एकदा.
आजच्या काळात यशस्वी वकील होण्यासाठी आजची न्यायालयीन व्यवस्था आणि देशांतर्गत परिस्थिती यांची काय भूमिका असेल?
डॉक्टर साहेब, प्रश्न अत्यंत चांगला आहे. प्रश्नाचं उत्तर सरळ आहे की प्रत्येकाने आपण स्वतःलाच मदत केली पाहिजे. आपण दुसऱ्याच्या मदतीची वाट पाहून काय उपयोग नाही. न्यायालयीन व्यवस्था जी आहे त्या न्यायालयीन व्यवस्थेत आपण कसे अडॉप्ट होतो हे जास्त महत्वाचं आहे. सध्याची सामाजिक परिस्थिती जी आहे त्याला आपण कसे अडॉप्ट होतो ते महत्वाचं आहे. यशस्वी व्हायचं असेल तर यू युअरसेल्फ अडॉप्ट टू दी एक्झिस्टिंग सिच्युएशन अँड यू अडॉप्ट युअरसेल्फ इन टू दी एक्झिस्टिंग सिस्टीम. आता तुम्ही जे मला प्रश्न विचारता आहात की आता म्हणजे थोडक्यात सामाजिक परिस्थिती म्हणजे कोविडची परिस्थिती जर असेल तर कोविड मध्ये तुम्ही स्वतःला अडॉप्ट करून घ्या. तुम्ही स्वतःला क्लायंटला सल्ले फोनवरती देऊ शकता. सल्ला मसलत आजही सुरू असू शकते फोनवरती, व्हिडिओ कॉन्फरन्सिंगनी. तुम्ही नोटिसेसही देऊ शकता. काल परवा सुद्धा मी बघितलेलं आहे की सध्या नोटिसेस वगैरे देण्याचं काम चालू आहे. नोटिसेस ईमेलनी दिले जातात, नोटिसेस व्हॉट्सअप वरती देऊ शकतात. सो असं काम तुम्हाला करता येईल. पण हा एक झाला की कोविड-19 ची परिस्थिती असेल तर काय. पण यशस्वी वकील जनरली व्हायचं असेल या परिस्थितीमध्ये, आजच्या सामाजिक परिस्थितीमध्ये, तर तुम्हाला दोन गोष्टीला पर्याय नाही. मॉडर्न टेक्नॉलॉजीशी अडॉप्ट करणे आणि सामाजिक परिस्थितीची अडॉप्ट होणे, या दोन्ही गोष्टी केल्याशिवाय यशस्वी वकील आजच्या काळात होणं अवघड आहे.
Thank you so much, sir. Your positivity has brushed onto all of us. Now I call upon Advocate Mukta Dubey, who is the committee member of Sangli Bar Association, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Advocate M.M. Dubey, Joint Secretary, Sangli Bar Association, Sangli. Sir, on behalf of Sangli Bar Associations, Advocate Vasantrao Patil Lawyers Training Center, I would like to extend a sincere gratitude for the time and efforts you took to share your thoughts and experiences with the audience. Judging from the comments of those who attended the webinar has been very successful, and all the credit goes to you for delivering such an interesting talk. Since we are entering a new phase in the working of a legal system, your comments are very timely. We sincerely hope that all of us can use your suggestions in dealing with the daunting task of navigating through the profession in these difficult times. Sir, we also hope that you would want to be involved in our lawyers training center program, and we sincerely hope to see you soon on our platform delivering yet another insightful tag. I once again thank you very much on behalf of whole team of Sangli Bar Association's Advocate Vasantrao Patil Lawyers Training Center. I would also like to thank the whole team who has been relentlessly working in the background to make this happen. I also thank everyone who attended the webinar. We will soon be coming up with yet another webinar on another interesting topic, which will be delivered by stalwarts from the bench as well as stalwarts from the bar. Thank you.